I don't understand why we had audio issues again.
Yeah, well,
we're not having audio issues. We're having Clubhouse issues.
No,
it's always Clubhouse.
We're having audio issues. Let's
I feel like my name is being pulled through the trash during all this Clubhouse stuff.
Let's start with
COVID,
the jingle.
2 meters.
We don't have a jingle.
We've got the jingle from the previous show. Christ, we're not having audio issues, guys.
Unbelievable. I'm sick and tired of being bullied.
That's a good question. A good topic to talk about, if you like.
Oh, Vicky left.
Take a photo of that screen for me.
Is that our website? Yeah. Cool.
Oh,
I didn't have my headphones on. That's why Vicky left.
Bless her.
What have you got headphones on for?
Because he wants to look the part.
I don't want to hear him.
Do you know?
And I want to look the part.
I've, like a fine wine, I've been savouring Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen speaking.
Hold on, we haven't started yet.
No, we've started.
Where's the jingle?
Fucking hell.
We do not start until there's a damn jingle.
I'm taking my time on this.
You imagine
I can tell.
Imagine if Patrick was in charge of the 100 metres. Right, we are not starting the race until I've fired my gun.
AK-47 only.
What am I even looking for?
Oh.
The jingle. Fuck. You
Hey.
made it.
That's it. I feel like you're being angry. Don't like it.
I think it worked better when the console was behind you.
Well, when I was behind it all. There you go, Happy. Because you're not monitoring anything. Well, hello and welcome everyone to the
This is brilliant. This is the literal worst start to a podcast I think I've ever heard.
I think it's amazing.
Okay. Right.
Right.
Well, what are we here for anyway?
Okay, we are here. I don't know why we're here because I've now thrown myself because I've just been fucking dragged through the gutter. My name has been dragged through the gutter as an audio technician of the year.
Do you really wish that you were a lighting tech?
No. I hate
You may not wish it, but he should maybe think about it.
What about a video tech?
No.
VMix?
No.
You have got the eye
You
for
don't like VMix stuff.
I don't like VMix stuff. No.
You've got the eye for the camera reef.
The thing that annoys me, and like, fuck it, I'm going to start off on a high here. Cameramen, stop charging so much fucking money to stand still. It does my head in.
Well, okay, I'll say something rather inappropriate now. To every cameraman I know, is that I agree with that statement. And the problem that they've got now is the advent of the controllability through NDI, through Ethernet. These PTZ cameras that we've got and invested in, we can pre-program multiple settings, multiple points of shot, and we don't need a cameraman anymore. Debatable, naturally.
I definitely think from where I stand, cameramen do a lot, but in the corporate world, when it's point at one person, I don't see how they're going to stay in the industry.
Well, that's good. Well done, Alex. Welcome to the show, Alex.
If anybody wants to phone in and tell us what flight case was being rolled over the carpet.
This is, after all, the flight case showcase, and we were testing your knowledge. Was that
in fact, should we let's just rewind and go, ladies and gentlemen,
what flight case that was. Was it a lighting flight case?
The bloody...
No, but in all seriousness now, what we've got is we've got this show, 3 people around a table being recorded by 2 cameras. And they are, I'm going to question myself now, but I would imagine Tim's probably pre-programmed 5 or 6 different settings, 6 different shots.
Should we put him on
camera.
Should we put him on
the
back foot and be like, do all 5 as quick as you can?
How many number of fingers of pre-shots? 5.
5.
So he's got 5 different shots from 2 cameras.
I want to be able to look into each one and go...
Well, the problem is that there's one there. Oh, there he's got you. He's got you. Hey. And then he comes back to me. He's got to cut somewhere else first. And then it's, hey.
And then to Gareth.
He's behind you.
Oh.
It's behind you.
It's behind you.
And the beauty about this, right, from a technology standpoint, and this is what I think is awesome, is that he is in the studio here with us, but he could literally be on his boat in the Thames doing this, controlling it. So, number 1, we're COVID safe.
Yeah.
Number 2, not enough people, not too many people in the room, saving what would be 2 cameraman fees. So that's 800 quid for a single day.
See, that hurts me to hear that.
But
like,
also,
that is such
I
a...
think that's what's going to happen to audio, to lighting, to video, to everyone.
100%.
We're going to be automated
But
AI.
I do believe an audio engineer is paid for their ears there, as a lighting engineer is. But if you can control that from like a camera from your home, do you really need to be in the room for that? I don't know. Tell me if
the difference with the audio is that you are an actual end product, whereas with camera operators, it's actually going to the video operator.
Yeah.
I disagree. I think yes. I think that there are going to be certain what are the microphones? The parabolic mics. You can set up a couple of parabolic mics in the stadium.
Yeah.
And order and check what frequencies and what sound pressure levels hit in those things. And you could probably do a mix eventually at some point remotely. Well,
actually, during all of this, Foo Fighters did do a gig somewhere, and the monitor engineer who lived in Canada, they were doing the show in LA, I believe. He was mixing monitors from Canada. And so I thought that was interesting. So obviously, a bit different from doing front of house because you've got a bit more time on your hands to do that, and you can do that from your computer. But I thought that was really fucking cool.
That is really cool. And the thing that one of the things that it wasn't on the same vein because they probably had their engineer in the room. But the Post Malone Nirvana concert over lockdown,
they killed that. That was so good.
Ripped that apart. It was so good. It was so good.
Yeah.
And it just showed that actually, with the right, you watched it as well, Gareth.
No.
All right.
So you should. You should watch fucking wicked. Yeah.
He's not a great Nirvana fan. And let's not get onto music now because he's going to start offending me with his slagging off my favorite music. But having said that,
I would never climb the stairway to heaven.
Wait, just to clear this up, you don't like Led Zeppelin?
I don't get Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
There's a big difference between the two. You can appreciate that they're great songs. They're well written. The instrument playing is fantastic. But actually, I feel that some bands, if you're not there at the time, you don't get what they actually achieved and why they are so famous.
I mean, Jimmy Page is a dog shit guitarist, in my opinion, but one of the greatest songwriters of all time.
I'm going to call bullshit on that. Okay. Like he's not he's not a dog shit guitarist.
Have you seen him play live?
It's
like, did you see that
live
Celebration Day DVD made me want to rip my ears off.
Really?
So bad.
It's like punk appealed to a certain generation, Nirvana appealed to a certain generation, and then I've got Nirvana vinyl at home.
Yeah.
What do you use it for? A coaster?
No. I use it just to put underneath another record that slips occasionally.
Yeah.
It's a slip disc.
But it's a generation thing. Nirvana came at the right time for a right generation, and their music is stunning, and it will hold the course of time.
It changed the way rock and roll music was perceived by a generation, 100%. But I listened to my dad's Pink Floyd, Deep Purple, Uriah Heep. I listened to all my dad's Chris Rea, Elton John, all that kind of stuff when I was a young kid growing up, when that music wasn't necessarily the stuff you'd listen to. So music does cross genres and generations.
Led Zeppelin, though, at a point in my lifetime, I can't even remember anything they've released.
Because you weren't exposed to it, but they were around the same time as the Beatles.
As in you can't remember a specific time where they had done a campaign to release a record, or you can't name a single thing they've released?
No, I can because their numbers, their albums are just named with a number on the end. But what I'm saying is, when Led Zeppelin were at their height, I was too young to listen to music.
Fair.
Yeah,
right?
Fair.
Yeah.
So with Nirvana came 90, I'm going to say 91, 88. That's to me around that. I was at work, but going out clubbing, and they used to play Nirvana. They didn't play Led Zeppelin at clubs.
They still play Led Zeppelin at clubs now, I would imagine.
Yeah, but they're remixing and doing all sorts of stuff with it. But you were more into NWA when you were at that age.
Yeah, hip hop was my.
So there's no chance you'd be listening to Nirvana. So
no,
again,
but
it's not
I
a
did
generation
listen. My
thing.
mum made me listen to
NWA. Yeah, I fucking doubt that, mate.
Get in here and listen to this.
My mum made me listen to Benny Goodman and people like that of jazz all the time. Sunday afternoon, she'd have that radio on. My dad was never really into music, but my older sister, obviously, there's always my older sister, what she listened to is filtered down to me. And she was a big Beatles fan, and then so therefore I can appreciate the Beatles more because I was more exposed to them.
And the Led Zeppelin sound was more psychedelic, and you can lend itself more to the sort of grunge era, whereas the Beatles sound was more sort of, I guess, it's more pop rock, wasn't it? I guess.
Well, the Beatles really did one over on themselves, in my opinion. Like their latest stuff is garbage.
I thought all of their stuff was garbage. Here come the haters.
What?
Yeah, I do. Genuinely.
That's an outrageous statement.
Going back,
it is an outrageous statement. It is my belief, though.
Yeah, but your belief is wrong.
Okay, just wait.
I think
wait.
They paved the way for a lot of
but
things.
They did in their generation.
In '63, you moved your hip on TV, and you were banned.
Yeah.
Elvis did that first,
and he was banned. Originally, you only had shots from him from the waist up because they thought he would excite.
That's because his pants were so tight. His fucking vocal cords were fucked. We were talking about who would swear first. Was that the first swear word in the podcast?
No, I think there's been a few already.
The question is, I mean, when you at some point you're going to go, your daughters and go, can you turn that down, please?
But so for example, I played Down to the Sickness. Do you know
Disturbed?
Yeah. And Jasmine absolutely loves that 7-year-old girl every day. Can we play Down to the Sickness, please? That's a hardcore.
That's a fucking song. Heavy album. Yeah.
And she loves it, but she also loves Cars by Rascal Flatts. You know what I mean? So
which is a great tune. It's a great record.
Yeah.
Have you listened to that Disturbed thing I sent you? They did the cover of Sound of Silence. I remember sending this to you because we went into it a while back talking about best covers of all time, and I think Disturbed actually did it with Sound of Silence.
Okay. I think those.
I have heard it.
You have heard it. It's so good. It's so good.
But you see, Spotify. If I had Spotify, that's what I needed. Because now my daughter would just go, random playlist, something comes up, they play an odd song, that takes her down a wormhole where she's going to listen to that genre. And I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Remember, I was still going out buying 7-inch singles on vinyl. We'd only just finished 8-track.
Did you ever get involved in like the cassette tape era where it was a real swapping culture?
Oh, big time. Mixtapes.
That was
I've still got 2 mixtapes at home. One I know someone made for me.
Yeah.
And if my sister ain't listening, but I still have that, and she's put a little star on it, and she did it while she was in Liverpool.
No way.
And I've only got 4 cassettes left. I've got 2 Bill Hicks cassettes that I can't throw away because I used to listen to him as a comedian a lot. But 8-track I wasn't into. That had gone by the time.
That was big.
The cassette thing was my generation.
Yeah.
We would if you could, particularly as DJs, you'd record your set and give it to your mates, and then everybody would be after copying that cassette.
Yeah.
And then you'd end up hearing that cassette in a mate's car that you hadn't seen in 3 years, and you'd be like, "That's my fucking music.
That's a fucking banger. This one. I like this one. Yeah.
What's the The World's End? You seen the World's End film? No, The World's End, the film.
With Simon
Pegg
and Nick Frost.
Yeah, and they get in the car, and he goes, "Oh, this is a great mixtape." Oh, it's the same one from 1991.
I've recently started a bunch of playlists. I think I showed you the artwork I did for them on Apple Music, and I call them mixtapes because I kind of want to add to them and evolve them and record over them and change them, because that's what we used to do. We used to record what we were listening to and then be like, okay, I'm done with that. And then you'd re-record it. But you used to record from the radio. So you'd be listening to the radio and then some dick DJ would fucking say, this is 5FM or whatever. And oh, fuck, so I'll get it.
You ruined it, you bastard.
But you'd at least have most of the song. And then after like a week, you'd re-record it. And that's what I want to do with modern music, because I feel that we currently just listen to the same playlist over and over and over again.
I did find myself recently. Do you have Spotify now?
Yes, but I did look on my Spotify account for last year, and of the top 100 songs, none were mine. So obviously, family are listening. Well,
I was going to say that. So every year with Spotify, they give you your year in a playlist, which I fucking love. But I've realised that for the whole of 2021, I've been listening to that playlist that was my highlights of 2020. So I feel like I'm definitely stuck in a music at the moment.
The problem that you also have is that you tend to let other people use your playlist, or you sample songs where you're like, oh, have you heard this? Or my daughter uses it, and it just fucks up that whole algorithm.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden Barbie song comes in the middle of a playlist.
Don't pretend
that
wasn't
be
yours.
Right, that was me.
Did you? Now, have you got the European mix of that one? They did do something on Spotify though. If you're like in the top 1% of listeners for say whatever act, they quite often then the act contacts you and gives you tickets and things.
We did that as an event. We used to, for Spotify, through Badger and Fox, the two. We were on the gig with. You were with me on Jessie Ware, I think her name
We did Jessie Ware. That was the VIP thing, wasn't it?
We did a string of them where there were very famous people giving.
Well, we did Jessie Ware. We did Casey Musgraves.
Yeah.
And we did. There was a handful of them. They were.
Horniman's Museum was
one.
We
did Village Underground as well. Who was the artist there? There was a big rapper. was Chance the Rapper. It was a big record.
We did. What's it? Wretch 3-2 we did on one
Who
of
was
them.
the one at Ed's Diner in Soho?
Don't know.
God knows. I can't remember.
Yeah, we've done too many. Let's rewind back quickly to growing up. My mother used to play Julio Iglesias to put me to sleep. Have you ever heard Julio Iglesias? Enrique's father.
I was going to say, I love Enrique. A bit of Enrique is fucking
his dad
flawless.
is like the godfather of Italian. I think they're Italian. Spanish love music.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, it's nothing like that. But it
was a good
literally would
impression.
put me to sleep like that.
Yeah.
It was
It's
awesome.
that boring.
That boring, but that's soothing.
Was he not a goalie for Real Madrid?
I don't know, but if you have a look, he's near on one of those guys in his time that was like Tony Robbins or Richard Branson with Necker. He had his own island in a way. This monstrous mansion, rich as hell. Everyone in Spain knows and loves him. It was incredible.
Was it? Now, is it deliberate from your mum playing that?
I'd ask for it because she played it once and it put me to sleep while I was sitting up, I think. And I was like, can I listen to the other shit you were playing the other day? And she's like, that's not shit. I like that.
Yeah.
I went, no, please stick it on. And then it became a habit, like, every other habit in life, cocaine and alcohol and all the rest of the
Cocaine
bad
and the
things.
Iglesias family. Basically one of the same.
I find it fascinating. Anyway, so we've drifted into 20 minutes of music talk.
Yeah,
there.
which
That was
is lovely.
interesting.
I love it. I could talk about music all day with you guys. But what are we here to discuss?
Nothing in particular.
We are here to discuss the future of the events world, I feel. But before we do that, I think as this is going to become part of a series of podcasts, I think this is the perfect opportunity to ask you guys some questions about where you guys came from. And the first thing I want to know is, if you take today and when you got into events in the early 90s and early 2000s, what is the biggest difference you see now? How would you come back from it if we had been in a pandemic back then? What would the solution be without all of these emerging technologies and without all of that? And as two business leaders, what would you have done?
I can answer that categorically because mine's quite easy. If I'll take this one.
No, you can go first. Oh, yeah.
I was in South Africa, so we wouldn't have fucking paid any attention to the fact we were
Carried
in a
on doing
pandemic.
it, yeah.
Carried on doing it, do the gig,
Yeah.
and face the repercussions afterwards. And particularly in that time, there was no chance that we were going to struggle with being locked down. Fuck that.
Yeah.
And also, don't forget, there was a lot of unrest at that time as well. So, well there was a change of power. Let's put it that way.
What year are we talking? Or what year?
So I got into events in 97. There was the handover of power in 94. So there was still like this transitional phase. But certainly as a young person in events and being around young people in events, our mentality was just go, go, go. And you know what South Africans are like? We're really cunts at the end of the day. So, he dropped the C-bomb.
Jesus.
We'll have a bleep, bleep, bleep over that.
Yeah.
We might bleep that one out. Although we are live, so that's a problem.
We are live, yeah.
Shit.
Oops.
Go on.
From my side, well, how old were you, though, when you
So
first...
I would have been, in 97, I would have been 18, and that's when I slid from, I went into college, and then I went 2 years later straight into events. So I would have been 20, effectively, when I was fully into the industry.
Right. I was 22, and I can say it's November the 4th, 1992, because I've been unemployed for a little while, and a friend of mine, who's still a friend, was in events, and he'd been unemployed. He said, "You want to come along as a van driver?" So that's how I started. I don't know and the company I worked for, though, we had streams and rooms of video recorders, duplication suites. VHS stuff.
Yeah.
And we were not... I can remember the two blokes who would run that department, and all you would hear was the clicking of it. Run.
Yeah.
And if you ever went in there, they just shouted at you, "Don't touch this because we're on." So I feel that they would have carried on and gone into video editing.
I was going to say that's definitely a area of the events industry that wouldn't have been affected.
No.
Like now, looking back on it.
But we had a massive console, reel to reel. So I can still do reel to reel.
Yeah.
I can still remember splicing.
Yeah.
And that. So that's what I think would have happened with the company I worked for back then.
All right. So let's spin it on its head a little bit. If Perception was running in the early 2000s, what do you think your actual headspace would be trying to get back into events now where there isn't the emerging technology, where there isn't the same amount of flexibility to do stuff from your home, and where you have to kind of be on site to be in the events game.
You'd evolve. You wouldn't play the event game.
Yeah,
It would have to be a complete evolution. The advent of being alive right now, at this point in the day, in a year that has been incredibly difficult for the entire industry, 365 days to the day in what?
6 days
In
time.
6 days time.
6 days.
So
Jesus.
59
days we've been without business at all, apart from the stint that we did as a studio, which we could only do because of the broadcast, which is internet. We didn't have internet. So I would have personally been looking at areas of build or set or I guess project management, where you'd need to sort of use your skills outside of the event game. It would have to be. And at the time I was working for an outfit that had about 20 staff, so not too dissimilar from us, and we would have probably gone under, to be honest, because a lot of those guys had only ever had one set of skills, and it was either AV, it was either sound, it was either lighting, but not many of them had that sort of, I could generalize across the various skill sets. But with the South African mentality is get it done, we'll just do it. So it would have worked possibly, but it'd have been tough. I think that question is a hard one to answer.
Yeah.
I think the company that I worked for back then would have been going into, we're talking to early 2000s, we had about 8 or 9 divisions within the company.
Yeah.
And we worked for one of them, which was London centric. So there were parts of the company that would have still survived and carried on. Yeah. I think what would have happened a lot, though, because we had so much logistic fleet, we might well have turned into an Amazon for 9 months.
Yeah. You were at the time, though, working for a division of the biggest staging company in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and we were the London-centric department.
Yeah, which would have been huge. I mean, Gearhouse at the time were, well, even when I came in, they were behemoths. And you were working for PSL, which eventually got so big in itself, was a behemoth. And it separated, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, PSL split into 2, and there was like PSL, and then PSL moved up to Boreham Wood, around that area. So, but that's what I think would have happened. Logistics would have carried on doing logistics.
Yeah.
Concert touring would have, I'm afraid, just gone and been mothballed. Scenery would have gone into film, because the film and advert and TV hasn't stopped.
Which is crazy still. I still find that crazy that world has not stopped.
Throw this into this. I mean, like, when was the last major pandemic? It was the Spanish flu? Is that right? 100 years ago. They say 100 years.
1918, 1920, around there.
Would we have had that 100 years back? I feel like we've become so germ-centric that's why this pandemic is happening. But then again, it's from a medical point of view, that doesn't make sense, that statement. So I don't know. Are we waiting for another 100 years for the next one, or is it now going to be 20 years' time? Because we have to prepare ourselves for the next one, which is inevitable.
Is that something you guys as business owners are like? Yes. Obviously, with the studio and stuff, that is a plan, but it's like the business model has to change at this stage. So is that
the business model has to adapt? The change word is slightly different, because I think from the word. And Patrick used it first, the perception like pivot. Yeah. Right. So the core business still stays the same, but then you have to pivot into other directions, and from that leads on to other avenues. So we may have started as a 2-core stream back in 2019. We've now got 7 cores.
Yeah.
Which we didn't have, and in some regard, we may not have had them if this hadn't have happened.
Yeah.
And we look round, even on this industrial unit, every company here has changed its business model of the 7 companies in this estate.
Yeah.
They carry on doing their core business, and we've carried on doing some events. They are now virtual events, but they are still an event.
Yeah.
We haven't done any we've done hybrid event. We've actually had people in here.
Yeah.
Live events, etc. So that's what I think.
But what about you? I mean, because your entire career is defined on moving around with bands.
All of us, and well, I say all of us, all of my colleagues and the people I work with, we are genuinely doing the waiting game. I think some people won't return to the industry. Me personally, I am definitely doing the waiting game. I'm waiting for this to blow over.
But my question is more to the point of based on what we were just talking about a second ago. You've seen a pandemic now. You've seen that 365 days can almost wipe you out and an industry. What are you going to do about diversifying?
So it's made me, I mean, like, obviously doing things like this, like actually being able to talk about it is something that's been really good for me, because it makes me still feel like I'm enjoying being in the events world. Like, even if I have to completely sidestep out of events and stuff, I still want to be able to sit in a room with my friends and talk about it. So I think it's really made me realise is that I think I said this last week, I don't want to be defined by my job anymore. And I think this has single-handedly given me that opportunity.
As a question, though, over the years, and just by looking at you and something we chatted about earlier, in front of you, what mic are you using?
Some Lewitt thing.
Did you buy that pre-COVID or during COVID?
That was given to me pre-COVID.
Right. Can I just interject there? As our lead sound engineer and the man that tours with some of the biggest bands in the world. What mic you got, Craig? Some Lewitt thing?
But just as a question, though, now... When you've talked about buying mixing desks in the past, digital desks, microphones, do you now think actually differently? Holding equipment, like you always come with your case, and inside your case has got 60 mics or 20 mics or 5 mics. When you buy your next, will you buy them? Do you need them? Is it an asset or is it a liability?
I've been very, very lucky with a lot of my equipment because it's been... given to me to use by brands, so it's not necessarily been at a financial detriment to me. I've never had to buy anything. I've been very lucky because I've partnered up with companies to get equipment.
I remember we had a conversation about buying digital desks or buying some radio mics when we saw them up.
Yeah.
All right.
I would love to do it, but then having spoken with the pair of you guys about owning kit, it's not just as soon as you own kit, the second it's not being used or it's not out there, it's costing you money. Like, you can't, unless you can guarantee the work, there's almost no point in having it. And for me to make use out of a digital console, so if I spent $5,000 on a console, let's say, I don't know whether my clients would pay me a higher fee for that when they don't have to pay that and just use house consoles.
There's also the annoyance of having to tour with it.
I was going to say, transporting these things around.
Storing it.
Yep.
Right. The thing that this pandemic has taught me fundamentally, and this is a lesson that I think that one of the things that we're currently doing to diversify has taught me, is that outsourcing is fundamental.
Yeah.
Right? You lose margin 100%, but you work on building it into your cost structure, and you make sure that whatever you do to the end user is costed in such a way that you can build your business on that model. Yeah. Because if you're carrying loads of kit, look at the burden that we are now carrying in terms of this enormous warehouse with all this kit, all this expense, whereas a one-person event management company
is just dishing it out. Yeah.
Is dishing it out and sitting at home with zero overheads. So that's the thing. That's the lesson I'd get. Well,
that's one thing. Once again, talking with you guys, how you've grown the company in such a way that you weren't doing shit on HP, and it wasn't a case of like, let's get the newest piece of kit, and it was like, we used those piece of shit back there for fucking years, whatever they're called, PA12s or something. Like, they're good consoles, but they weren't necessarily fit for the job. But it worked.
In your different markets, then you have to have different equipment levels. But there is a point that, yes, if you are sitting at the moment with your wall that you were going to put in Glastonbury in 2021, and Glastonbury's not over at the festival, and it sat there. Yeah. I don't say we were fortunate, because we made a conscious decision at the start not to owe people £1.
Yeah.
And that was, but there is a downside and upside. But it's proved the upside in a pandemic. It wasn't. We didn't sit there though 14 years ago and go, we're not going to owe £1 in 2007 because in 2021 we're going to have a pandemic.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Should we have seen it coming, or should we have been prepared for something like that? Where we were just naive.
I think we were pretty well prepared. We had good cash reserve, and we had zero debt. The only thing we had was overheads, but that's what comes with every business as you're growing. So you can't foresee that. There is also, which again, something we're learning at the moment through another venture that we're going through to get through this, is that there is good debt and bad debt. And there are a number of outfits that bought heavily for the summer festival season 2020 in April when the tax year changes, 100, 200, 300, 400 grand worth of gear to facilitate those festivals.
It haven't happened.
And then we'll shut down straight away.
Yeah.
And you are now stuck with that asset finance.
Yeah.
And those are risks that you take in business, and sometimes they pay off, sometimes they don't.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or if we'd had hindsight back in, February, March, when something's going to happen, you would have gone out and bought every black magic product you could find.
Yeah.
Quick as.
Yeah.
We weren't far off that.
No.
We started buying in March, 1st of April.
We were quick, but if we'd known then, I might have invested.
Yeah.
I might have bought 24 of them instead of buying 5 of them.
Yeah.
Etc.
Yeah.
Because there was definitely a shortage all of a sudden, and that's something I think will happen in the next pandemic. You've got to think ahead of the old-fashioned supply and demand.
Yep, absolutely.
Is there going to be something next time? It could be PTZ cameras next time. This is coming around again. We don't get to June 21st. They might suddenly, actually, let's go and see what's going to happen. We might have to buy X amount of them.
It's like all these warehouses full of toilet paper. Now Perception's going to have a warehouse full of PTZ. So basically the same, right?
And then eventually wipe our asses with those cameras, yeah.
And the brackets. That's the key to that. Just small things.
I had a family friend actually that made a fortune through owning one bracket for a JCP digger head part, which he patented. And I thought that is such a genius idea. If you could just find out the way that you connect all these things together and go, that's mine. And then everyone needs it. I mean,
on a
that's
side
smart.
note, Unicol. Everybody's heard of them?
Yeah.
Started out with scaffold poles.
Yeah.
Good friend he was a friend of mine. I haven't seen him in years. Technician.
Yeah.
Was offered the opportunity to come in on that company.
Really?
Yeah.
Good
Just
Lord.
went, no thank you. I'll carry on being a technician.
Yep, I'll carry on doing my thing. All right then. Well, we spoke about it earlier, but when we can go back to this, I openly said that I don't want to go back to the 20-hour days and stuff. And my question to the pair of you is, what is the one thing that you've got used to over a career of 30 years in events that when you go back to it, you're going to just say no? You're going to be like, no, I'm not going to eat.
Doing this podcast with you again.
No, fair enough. You're lost, bro.
Okay, so there's two answers to that. There's the monetary cost, and then there's the jobs that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So there's the price battle. I'm not interested in price battle anymore. If you want to use us, you use us at our fair price, which is based on industry standard pricing. I feel we're not the cheapest, we're not the most expensive. We're bang in the middle somewhere, but our value proposition is much higher than anybody else's out there, regardless of price. You get everything thrown at you with the kitchen sink when you come and work with us. Everybody that works with us is of the same mindset, and therefore that's why our turnover of clients is so low, is that we've had clients with us since 2007 when we opened. It's because of the attitude that we have towards every single job.
Yeah.
And then I guess the jobs that we don't want to do, there are those clients we just don't want to associate with, not through any other reason other than it doesn't excite you, it's boring, whatever the case may be. We get to choose now. And sure, Gareth may take on a job that I don't agree with. That's fine. I'm not going to get involved with it. Right? And again, and then it comes back to the business model, how we outsource is what I'd say.
Very similar answer. The only thing I would add is I think it's come to the point where someone says to you, do air condition units, no longer try and subcontract them in and
pass it on to someone.
Yeah, because I've done air condition units for someone in this company, and it always makes me laugh. I wasn't an air conditioning engineer, but I turned up a place, stacked up the van, went down, and the man goes, "Oh, you need a hole for that in the marquee." It's like, well, I didn't know that. I wasn't an air conditioner. Because I was just we do them, no problem. Now's the time. That would be the bit where I'd say, actually, I will facilitate the introduction. And an introduction fee.
So an introduction fee, because obviously through turning down the smaller jobs and those more difficult jobs, there will be a financial hit by that, and that I presume, like I personally have been taking a financial hit on not doing work I don't want to do for years, and it's been great for me, and I definitely am not going to change that. I fucking hate working with knobheads and doing jobs I don't want to do.
It can't be a financial hit worse than the moment, can it?
Very true.
And we've learned that we came from a position where Alex, Stan, Tim, Matt, Ryan, Shane, everybody that's involved here at this company, you know, everybody that's either freelance or permanent or whatever, we've pushed some wrong hours, like to serve a client, or some really wrong hours, because of the way the industry prices itself. But they're getting it to us for this. So in order to win the work, we'll cost it in such a manner that we're low on staff. And that means that the staff that are on the job have to work longer, harder, and that's not going to happen anymore, right? There's our proposition. Take it.
Yeah,
we should, as an industry, be like solicitors.
Yeah,
as like even today, there's Alex is sitting behind us. He's been in here for so many hours. There is a cost for that. There's also a cost to him. Yeah, and there's a cost for preparing this show. And there's Tim, who has sat there today 3-4 hours at least, I would say. He doesn't look like he's got up and he's just been preparing this show, and that's something that's not costed him. And we should actually bill ourselves as an industry as a whole, like as solicitors. There is so much pre-production that goes in that is just accepted, and I think people now, you value things a lot more. Yeah, and we value also the time. We value opinions, and also if the people that you value within your company, you have to listen to what they're saying. And to go back to, there will be jobs coming up, right, where we have to do a 16-hour day, and that may be required. But we don't have to do 10 16-hour days on the trot.
16-hour day, I'm not worried we're doing. It's the 16-hour day, 4 hours sleep into a drive somewhere to then do another 16 to do another 16.
Also not asking you to be a carpenter.
Yeah.
Asking you not...
Sorry, pause. I'm going to call a pause on that. Don't ever ask Craig to be a
It's also asking you not to run power. You are not a power engineer.
Yeah.
There's the other points to it.
Yeah.
Give people their skill sets. Let them do their... And make sure you're fully crewed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And we've learnt that with live events.
Yeah.
The live event we did in the church, we had a proper number of people on site.
And that worked well.
Yes.
It was good.
But the client looks around and says, why is there 10 of you here? Well, actually, it transpired we needed 10 of us here. Yeah. Or 9. Yeah. Me or Ryan, we're not sure which one we needed. But I was there just
but you and Ryan weren't actually in the fact. You weren't factored into the cost.
No, and exactly. We weren't. So there was 8 people, but those 8 people are all needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, having and thinking about who we need. Tim often will say, show callers, constantly forgotten.
Yeah.
He's reminded me of that this week. We should be having show callers. They are needed, and they should be costed accordingly.
Yeah.
Do you know what this pandemic has taught us is that, businesses do evolve. We were just forced to evolve into this particular thing that we're doing now, which is kind of this purgatory of events. It's like we're doing virtual, coming to hybrid soon, but we've evolved. We dabbed our hand at a number of businesses along the way because we could. We tried running a festival in 2015. We tried running a crewing company, which served our needs for 2 years. We've tried. What else have we tried? We've tried a whole bunch of shit, right? We were forced to try it this time. That's the difference. And with there not being any income, that's what the struggle has been. And that's where that mindset needs to change. When we did it before, it was like, let's try do a crew company. If it doesn't work, meh. Do it now. This has to fucking work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody that's in this room...
is what we're committing to. Kind of thing,
and everybody else that's associated with the people in this room and their families, they've got to go look for jobs at Tesco's or wherever, and that's a lot of pressure. And that's something that we have been focusing on behind the scenes to get right.
Our integration is a good business model. Perception integration is a good business model to run with. That works.
Yeah,
it works and that's worked with the pandemic. That hasn't changed. That's still working as good it did before.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So that is one of the definitely wins.
Yeah.
It's one of the few parts of the industry that actually still has work. And it's something that I'm going to, if we talk about going to your industry now, one of the things that we've got potentially coming up in June, right, is we're going back into events. Do you notice the inflection in my voice? What the fuck?
So what's going on
my
there?
point is, are we? Yes, we release, but are we going to events? Can we travel? Can we cross borders?
Yeah.
Can we tour with these things? What's the thing with trucks in Europe? And all of these questions are going to come. So you're going to end up, and you can touch on this in a second, because you're going to potentially set up residencies in areas. You're going to maybe work at a venue and have band there for 6 months at a time. That's going to be the new touring.
Yeah, it may well take that American model of like, right, we're going to do a casino gig for 6 months, but I don't think there's going to be enough turnaround of people coming in to the UK to warrant a model like that.
There's this whole staycation boom at the moment. They're all here. They're on the island. We're an island and there's 60 million of us. There's enough people to get out and go and watch stuff.
Oh my God, the UK is going to turn into a big old Butlins, isn't
it? But you got the Olympics coming.
Yeah.
All right. It's a sporting event. People will want. We've got football the day after we go out of lockdown.
Yeah.
People, I'm not saying it's going to get like you remember when Clapham, when England scored and the beer just went everywhere.
Yeah.
That was cool. That was cool.
It was a cool picture, but that won't happen again. We have to be realistic.
Yeah.
But people do want to go outdoors. People will want live music. Festival, people even just buying tickets. It's sold out everywhere. Everybody wants to go to any festival possible at the moment. Alex has got 2 on back-to-back days. Straight away, bang, I'm going to festival.
Yeah.
Sporting events will come back. They would just have to work our way through is the numbers that we have.
Yeah.
And I think that live music is definitely, people can't wait for it. And there will be a surge. It's what happens after that surge happens. There's going to be an uplift in everything in June 21st. We're just trying to do everything.
Yeah.
Be like going to one of those restaurants where you can have, the food from around the world. We'll just take it all on a plate at once.
Yeah.
And then afterwards we go, I should have just stuck with having this countries.
It's going to be really interesting, I think. And I don't think any of us can predict it, especially like what you're saying there, talking about these new drivers' rules and cabotage and this new requirement that a lot of people seem to misunderstand about carnets and stuff. And it's moving around Europe is going to be different. And getting large things to Europe is going to be harder. It's not going to be impossible. But the other thing that I hadn't really thought about that much with everything that's going on is we in the UK are looking likely to be in a much better situation than France, Germany and that lot, way quicker than them with the vaccine rollout. So it's like, that's another thing to, like, even when we're ready to go, we still can't go off and do our thing, which I think is going to be outrageously frustrating.
It's definitely a long conversation, and we have learnt many lessons in the last hours and weeks, and it's getting on for a month about travelling abroad.
Yeah.
What EORI numbers and all that.
And this is just, and we learnt even more today. And there is a grant out there where you can get paid to train yourself to go and do this. And you as a company...
Really?
Yes. Now, we only found that out
yesterday.
Send
me a link to that.
No, I'm
speaking of which, how did you get on with your grant, by the way?
Still waiting to find out.
Right.
It's a 9-week lead time on it.
A quick synopsis on your grant was that it's a creative grant.
So I had applied for the develop your own personal practice. Develop your own creative practice through the arts funding, Arts Council funding, because I'd come up with an idea that could develop my personal creative thing,
vision,
and pay colleagues and friends along the way. But yeah, I won't actually find out whether I get that for another probably month or so.
And that was in the region of $9,000, was it?
Yeah, well, I asked for $9,000 to try and because that would bring in hiring studio space and all of that stuff. I'm just trying to circulate money around like, my colleagues and friends as well, to make something cool at the end of it, basically. That would benefit everyone around it.
So that also comes back to how well your accountant knows you, and whether because
and how dodgy he is,
and how many grants that you can. Because we in here, the three of us, Patrick might some right. Have you two seen this? No. Gareth, have you? Patrick, you seen this one? No. Yeah. Stephen sent Stephen one yesterday. He goes, I've already got this one.
Yeah.
Right. And then Stephen goes, oh, I haven't got that one though. Yeah. And that's worked really well. But we haven't had that as an industry whole.
No, I do feel like a lot of people are trying to be like, oh, there's this grant, but don't tell anyone about it because it's like a secret.
No, look, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. We're on a couple of WhatsApp groups with industry owners, production company industry owners. And there, up until now, has been a very much a shared mentality of...
Definitely.
See, that's great. Yeah. I don't think it's been... I think a lot of freelancers have kind of like...
But you guys have been fucked.
Yeah.
Badly.
I think a lot of people have crawled into a hole and kind of gone, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I'll weigh this out.
That also comes, though, from freelancers because there was never any solidarity. And also, if there's But if there's also a job for X amount of pounds and yours go, well, actually, my day rate is this, I'm not taking that. Someone would have taken it.
Oh, 100%.
So therefore, the grants thing, they're not going to share it around as much.
There's also a mentality in the freelance world about actually paying your taxes properly. right? Because and him.
No, this wound me up so much. Yeah,
those that did get money got money on the basis that whatever their average earnings was over a tax year, and how many people declare honestly? So not many.
It really frustrated me, actually. I remember having a conversation with a friend that tours, and he for years had been like, oh yeah, had another really good year this year and only paid like 600 quid tax. I'm like, whatever, mate, like, that's fucking cool. And then as soon as these SEISS things came out and he was just like, oh, I'm eligible for like 400 quid. I'm like, yeah, because you've been fiddling your books for 15 years. Like, what the fuck did you expect? Like, I was paying like shit tons of tax and moaning about it all the time, but I managed to get a grant out of it. Like,
well, we're all paying for it.
Yeah, thank you.
So going on to the Arts Council grant, I think this brings us on nicely onto this, what we're doing here. And this is one of the topics that we're just discussing. This is just a conversation that we're having about stuff. But we, as this all went down, I'll give everybody that's listening to this a quick synopsis of what we did. So 2020, April, would we say? We got together, a collective of us, and we put a rather poor talk show together. When I say poor, I just mean we put something together to show that we were able to broadcast. And out of that was born the idea that we could set up something that would have lots of content creators streaming.
Yeah.
Which is why we're sitting around the table today. So why don't we talk about that for a bit, and talk about where we see the vision on that, because it almost aligns itself very nicely with, you know, the creative grant that you're talking about as an example, and how we could steer money, get money shared around, get artists performing again until we get out again.
Absolutely. I don't really know what you want me to say about it.
I think let's talk about it.
Like, from what we've learnt here, we've learnt that with the virtual world and the content creation, so not only in here we've actually had live acts, we've had live DJs. So again, paywall, even if it's a small paywall up, that can be on there. We've had podcasts, that can be up there.
Yeah.
We've actually had product demonstrations, that could be up on there.
Yeah.
We've actually had pre-records, award shows. We've actually done live streams. We've done a charity event. Again, these are all things that anything that's got live content, and was what we were speaking around this table earlier. These are all platforms and various angles that can go up on there within the EBN, allowing people to watch as a library, but also give them a platform when they can't broadcast. And we had artists in there last week. It's facilitating,
isn't it?
Yeah. And we had artists in there last week where we were talking to them about what clubs they can go back to, and there may not be as many venues open. And the venues open, they may be so far down the pecking order because they're not a known star to get on the bill.
That's very true, actually. Yeah, like there will be a pecking order to an extent now, where it's going to have to be financially viable for a venue to host an event, whereas there will be a facility like the Event Broadcast Network where people can come and perform their music, their art to their people as a show instead of it being from their bedroom,
and monetize it. And that's the important thing. Like the most important thing for me is that it is, number one, a platform that people in the event industry love to go to, because they can go to libraries of relevant content, but also the people that are on there get to monetize that content to their people, either via donation streams, sponsorship, or registration and subscription models. And I think that having that kind of setup lends itself very well to content creators on a junior level, right up to business owners on a senior level.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing how this pans out. But I think the thing that for us and what we need to do is now start ramping up the content that's coming through here and get this studio that we're in really busy, really heaving with content creators. And when I say heaving, we've got to be careful as well, don't we? Because of COVID. So we've got to be very cautious about how we're getting people in and feeding people through the studio and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Also, it allows people to actually have an individual branded site. So instead of putting it up through YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, wherever, this can actually be branded as Craig Leach.
Yeah.
And Craig Leach is then broadcasting on Craig Leach's channel.
Well, let's talk Talking Touring, for example. You've got this new podcast that you've been doing that could potentially go through as a video stream on the podcast.
Well, I feel that it's going to be such a great place for that to live, because I think the event broadcast, the way it physically looks, is something that I want talking to him to be part of, and the fact that it is the Vimeo backend and all of that stuff. It looks good, and to be able to do stuff in here with the technology that you guys have acquired over years and years of doing events, you can make something look really fucking cool. And it doesn't take that much effort, and it's all in house, and it can just be done. Like this will be a live video that goes online instantaneously. Like it's there. It's now in the Event Broadcast Network, and that ain't going anywhere. And I love that. It's there forever.
Do you know what else I liked? And I genuinely, this really did it for me. And I can't wait until we can actually do this properly. But the vibe in here over the last 2 Wednesdays with the guys.
Oh, it's been lovely.
It's been awesome. Like when that girl came on, I think her name was Kelly or Kerry when she was in Clubhouse. And she just came up on stage after the first song and she went, guys, I literally had the hairs on the back of my neck stand up.
Yeah.
And the applause at the end almost made me cry. I haven't heard live music in over a year.
Yeah.
That's frightening. This is a woman that is like a festival professional, been in the game a long time. And just that interaction with fellow musicians and the banter when we're setting up, and it was just really great to be in. But it was our terms, and that's what was so nice about it. Whereas typically we're doing it from a corporate point of view, where it's not our terms, we're doing it for cash. This is our terms, and it's our vision and our drive and our journey. And I'm looking forward to that.
We're also not restricting people.
Yeah.
Every other platform has certain restrictions, whereas you can, as been proved here, say what you like in some regard.
Oh, I haven't yet.
No, we can. But again, it's just also put up your own brand. Yeah, I think it's more important that if you are a singer like last week when Joe Jordan came on, when he goes on to wherever YouTube, he's still it still says in the top corner. We know what platform you're on.
Yeah.
We're still using there. Whereas if he uses the development scientist Joe Jordan, then that way everybody is watching Joe Jordan.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I think I think the bit that really gets me is like that people are feeling that atmosphere that's in here, even through Clubhouse, and we all know how much I fucking hate Clubhouse. I'm not even pulling punches on it anymore. I hate it.
You didn't initially.
Yeah, and then I just started to hate it when I had to try and fucking juggle a mixing console and my brain. Like it just
the routing of audio is incredibly complex in the virtual world. Not forget Clubhouse for a second. Yeah. Just in the virtual world, mix minus and where you're routing it to, you can't monitor it, so you don't know what is going on.
Yeah.
On the other side, I think that's one of the things, and it's mental exhaustion is different to the physical exhaustion. We haven't been used to it.
That was one thing. Then, go on.
Audio text will never be computerized.
Well, this is the other thing. It's just like no one ever leaves the show humming the lights, do they?
Hold on.
Hold on. We can get a reply to this.
All that matters.
Alex is putting a big finger up to
Alex had a great expression for this, and I can't remember what he said.
Probably didn't matter.
No one takes any photos of the sound.
Yes.
No one buys an album of the lights.
Whoa, there is a good fucking banging conversation going on here.
You don't get Spotify for light shows. Fucking hell. No disrespect to lighting engineers, I think you're incredible.
But going back to that, the systemization of audio and the routing of audio parts can be done from anywhere. The only time it's a difficult equation to work out is when you need to get that live concert feel. You need to get the EQing of the room right. That's different. But in terms of routing, you can do routing from anywhere. We're getting to a point now, looking at that thing that you loop back audio.
Yeah.
You can route anything anywhere if you've got the network to it.
Yeah, I guess. To an extent.
You know you can.
Nah,
I'm not sure. You're saying, I guess, because you'll be out of a job in 2
See, what
months'
people
time.
aren't seeing that every week so far, we spend more time talking about audio paths than anything else. This week, the cameras just went up. Tim did his magic, laid out 2 cables, sitting over there.
It's because you guys like giving me a fucking hard time about it.
Alex has done a wonderful lighting show, which, you know,
people will take photos. He fucking stuck some lights on a CD and made it go red. I could do that.
I think Craig's going to walk out of here in a hump. So I started the show in a hump because I was told to be quiet or something.
Yeah, that's a bit harsh. You know, look at that record wall. But you said that's the favourite thing you've seen in here.
I like it, yeah.
Now, if that wasn't lit up at all, you wouldn't like it?
Oh, he's thinking about it now.
Yeah, well, still, it's all shit, isn't it? No, you're right. But audio's better than lights. We all know that. It's always better than
where's video sitting that then?
Let's
just
compromise.
For you two.
Why don't we just say that the experience is what we're after?
Yeah.
Together, it is the show that we love.
Yeah.
The show is what we love, and it's the whole lot. It's the audience, it's the sound, it's the smells, it's the bad beer, it's the lighting, it's the sound, it's everything.
It's
And
going into a new
we
venue.
need that back.
New venue. That was the biggest
Yeah.
plus.
Do you know what one of my favorite ideas? I saw somebody, and this is going slightly off topic, but it does have some relevance. I was watching something the other night on YouTube, and it was a guy called Magnus Walker. I think I may have shown you a picture of him, long hair.
Oh, the car guy.
Yeah. So he's got Porsches. He's born and bred in Sheffield, and he owns a clothing brand called Serious Clothing. And he moved over to the States, and he lived in a bunch of houses, and he had factories, and he was doing his clothing. And his wife said to him one day, "Why don't we just go live in a factory?" as a joke. And then she started canvassing the really shitty parts of downtown Philadelphia, and then pitched it to him. And he's like this really cool hippie. He's like, "No, don't be fucking ridiculous." And then eventually she convinced him. He now has a multi-use warehouse in the middle of, I think it's a 26,000 square foot warehouse. Jeez. Where he houses his Porsche collection. He has his clothing brand. He has like a coffee shop set up and a studio where they record podcasts and video productions and adverts and all that kind of thing. And they do a whole bunch of stuff. They've got a rooftop garden. They've got a wonderful courtyard. And I thought to myself, that for me is the vision for the Event Broadcast Network. Yeah. To live, breathe, and sleep in that kind of environment where it's just full on creative. You wake up in the morning, scratch your nuts, and then everybody's walking outside, creating wicked content. That for me is an awesome life.
Well, I'll be in at 9:10 though.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's call that a day. I think
so. Bang on, 6 o'clock. Thank you to Craig Leach, Gareth Hawke, and myself. But more importantly, the lighting guy, Alex Foy, and even more importantly, the camera guy, Tim Jones. But I think fundamentally, we all know that this wouldn't work if it wasn't for my good man here, Craig.
Agreed.
And we're playing out with a jingle. Fuck, please play out with a
Tim
fuck. See, he's not even prepared. This is unbelievable.
Tim did smile, by the way.
Did he? How many jingles do you want?
All of them.
Oh, wait, I haven't set it up for this. I'm monitoring all sorts of shit. Wait, what are we doing? Oh, yeah, that's still open. Oh, Shane, sorry, mate. All right, can we just close it, or do you want me to?
He's a happy man, though. Is Shane listening? He's a happy man tonight.
Why?
Shane is there.
He's in the dollars.
Is he also in the dollars?
He's in the dollars.
All right, it doesn't look like we're going to get our song, so I'd say good night.
Well,
bye-bye, everyone.
Have a lovely evening, and thanks very much for your time.
Something's playing, I don't know what it is. I think it just said, "Welcome to the show."